The Domestic Agenda, Hitler's Germany before the war. Germany, 1933. A country devastated by the Great Depression, burdened by the Treaty of Versailles, and in political chaos. Into this storm rises Adolf Hitler, a populist, a firebrand, and soon, a dictator. But before the world would know him as the architect of global war and genocide, Hitler's early years in office were marked by sweeping changes within Germany itself. This is the story of the domestic policies of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich, from labor reform to infrastructure, a side of history often overshadowed by the horrors to come. Part 1. Hitler gets elected. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Just months later, he consolidated power in the wake of the Reichstag fire and the Enabling Act, effectively ending democracy in Germany. Part 2. Labor reforms. One of Hitler's early domestic focuses was the German worker. The Nazi regime abolished trade unions and replaced them with the German Labor Front, a state-controlled body that offered little room for dissent, but it introduced reforms that appealed to many. Among them, the 40-hour work week, the establishment of the 8-hour workday, state-sponsored holidays and leisure programs like Strength Through Joy, Kraft durch Freude, and even vacation cruise ships for the working class. The Domestic Agenda, Hitler's Germany before the war. Of course, these benefits came with a cost: absolute obedience, no collective bargaining, and brutal suppression of opposition. Part 3. The Autobahn and infrastructure. To combat unemployment, Hitler turned to massive public works projects. Chief among them, the Autobahn, a high-speed highway system envisioned as both a symbol of national unity and a means of military transport. By 1936, thousands of kilometers of road were under construction. Jobs were created, and the regime used these projects as powerful propaganda tools. Part 4. Volkswagen, the people's car. In 1937, the Nazis launched one of their most ambitious consumer projects, the Volkswagen Beetle, or the people's car. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche and backed by the regime, it was meant to be affordable, reliable, and available to every German family. Though the war would delay its mass production, the Volkswagen would eventually become one of the most iconic cars in the world, its origins inseparably tied to Nazi Germany. Part 5. Environmental and public health initiatives. Surprisingly, Nazi Germany was also one of the first modern governments to push environmental protection. The Domestic Agenda, Hitler's Germany. Before the war, laws were passed in the mid-1930s to protect endangered species, preserve forests, and even regulate animal slaughter. Nazi scientists also made early medical discoveries. By 1939, researchers in Germany had published findings linking smoking to lung cancer, decades before the rest of the world caught up. The regime even launched anti-smoking campaigns, a strange contrast to the brutality it inflicted elsewhere. Part 6. The shadows behind the reforms. But these domestic programs came at a terrifying cost. The labor reforms came with the abolition of free unions. Volkswagen workers were forced laborers from occupied territories. Environmental protections did not extend to human beings labeled undesirable, and all progress existed under a regime already planning for war and extermination. In conclusion, the domestic accomplishments of Nazi Germany, the highways, the cars, the worker holidays, are often pointed to as signs of efficiency. But history reminds us even tyrants can build roads, and beneath every paved highway and factory line was a foundation of fear, surveillance, and repression. Understanding these policies in context doesn't excuse them. It helps us see how authoritarianism can mask itself behind prosperity.